Kia ora te whānau, no mai haere mai, and welcome to Headlines and Heartlines. I'm Diana Jensen, your co-host and journalist.
And I'm Whakapaipai Gorgeous, your co-host and psychotherapist, and also my Ines mama.
We're excited to welcome you to Headlines and Heartlines, the first podcast of its kind in the world.
This isn't just another news podcast. It's a groundbreaking space where we unpack global headlines with a unique blend of journalistic insight, therapeutic wisdom, and a te ao Māori lens.
As a mama-daughter duo, we're bringing something truly one of a kind, conversations that balance the hard realities of the world's news with the human stories and emotions behind them. No other podcast bridges the gap between the hard facts of journalism and the emotional insights of psychotherapy quite like this.
We're also here to foster deeper understanding, not just of the issues shaping our world, but also of how they shape us, creating a space for curious, compassionate people who want to engage with the news in a meaningful way.
Whether it's global headlines or personal heartlines, we'll explore the stories that connect us all.
So, subscribe today and be part of something groundbreaking.
Together, we'll create a space for meaningful and thoughtful conversations that celebrate the power of both the head and the heart. Kia ora, everybody. Welcome back to Headlines and Heartlines. It's been a minute. We're, as per usual, trying to fit our podcast in around our busy lives and the 2-hour time difference, even though it's not much, it is still a bit, trying to work out our schedules. But we're back. And what a crazy time we're in at the moment. It's, we'll go into that a bit more today. But first of all, ngā mihi o te tauhou Māori, happy Māori New Year, and mana wātia Matariki, welcoming in the Māori New Year this weekend. So on Friday it was the Matariki public holiday, which marked the 4th year of the first Indigenous public holiday in the world. Matariki and Puanga, so they're the stars which signal the Māori New Year, with the star cluster Matariki and Puanga visible on the eastern horizon before dawn. Different iwi honour one or the other, with celebrations peaking this weekend just gone, with different dawn ceremonies called hautapu, reflections and planning for the year ahead. So beautiful time right now here in Aotearoa, with people celebrating and spending time with whānau and remembering loved ones that have passed, and creating sort of plans for the
It's
next
a
12
lovely
months.
unification of having all the iwis, collectively unite. And as a child in New Zealand, I don't recall celebrating Matariki.
No, I don't think it
really
was
wasn't something that we did. It's been really delightful to see this grow and, being really nurtured by people and to really embrace it. So, and to get a public holiday, I'm like, wow, I'm actually happy that your new government hasn't tried to take that away as well. I mean,
Well, you never know, but hopefully no. I think it's here to stay, so that's awesome.
so the next story moving on, Trump sets deadline on Middle East action. Excuse me. So we are aware that we're a little bit behind in bringing this story because there has been other developments.
So if you could read it.
RNZ reported that current US President Donald Trump has given himself a 2-week deadline to decide on a US intervention in the escalating Israel-Iran conflict. While he stressed diplomacy, he warned military action was possible to stop Iran from obtaining nuclear weapons. According to RNZ, Iran has been weighing wider options in responding to the biggest security challenge since its 1979 revolution. I guess we now know that there are now attacks that have been authorized by President Trump.
Yeah.
And so
this is old news now,
effectively have now been deemed as, I think I heard Trump on our ABC this morning, we are not at war with Iran, but we're at war with the nuclear. And I was a bit confused about how does he not see that they're not at war with Iran when the nuclear side of it is Iran, supposedly.
Yeah, and I think it forms all part of Benjamin Netanyahu, Israeli Prime Minister's, his sort of 40-year goal, basically, to do this to Iran. So this has always been part of his he's spoken widely about it, how he's always wanted to carry this out. So now it's come to fruition with
The
the
only
Trump
concerns that
government.
I would raise is I hope this is not a repeat of America where mistakes were made. And I recall the world protesting when it was suggested that Iraq had nuclear power warheads and the invasion of Iraq. And, I think the investigation is still ongoing, isn't it? Because they did not find any nuclear warheads. There was no nuclear,
No.
whatever they were seeking. So I'm hoping there's evidence-based this time and that it's just not a repeat of mistakes.
I think there's a lot more going on than just that too. Like I think there's probably more than we're privy to, but this is obviously also a strategic move on behalf of Israel because they're trying to um, you know, have, I guess, gain more power in the region as well. And so by eliminating that as a threat, that's advantageous to their
Yeah.
government. I think, from what I understand. So
Mm,
yeah, it'll be interesting times, but
most
it is
definitely.
concerning. It's really concerning, and it's just yeah, it feels like the world's going a little bit mad right now. I did read this, and it's not funny, but I did read this article today actually about three places that are safest if we were to go to war, if there was going to be a World War III outbreak, and the three countries were Switzerland, Bhutan, and New Zealand. So yeah, we're pretty safe over
Be a
here. You might need to
big
come home, Mum.
exit out of Australia into New Zealand.
Well, there have been bunkers being built by very rich people. It's legitimately a thing. So preparing for
Yeah.
something, I'm not sure, but yeah. Anyway, we'll stay. Have to stay. I'm sure that situation will be evolving pretty quickly, I imagine. So we'll bring everyone up to date as it evolves. But moving on, the Murujuga traditional owners have been sidelined in the government's Northwest Shelf approval. So, according to ABC News Australia, a group of Murujuga traditional custodians are calling on the federal government to immediately release the conditions attached to its 40-year extension of Woodside's Northwest Shelf gas project. Federal Environment Minister Murray Watt waved through the approval 3 weeks ago, which allowed Australia's largest oil and gas facility to continue operating in Western Australia's Pilbara region until 2070. The letter's signatories are calling for more transparency and consultation with traditional custodians. So same old, I guess. Big money mining, basically getting precedent over, yeah, the Kaitiaki and
Sad to
Whenua.
see how it's
You know,
still, the dollar sign still overpowers connection to land, culture, spirituality.
yeah, yeah. Or they're pushing for the same thing here as well. And with the regulatory standards bill submissions closing today, yeah, it'll be interesting to see where we go from here. But I think we're going to see from conversations I've been having with people who know a bit more about this space. I mean, they've set up a regulatory like a regulatory ministry, and they've got things in place. And the coalition government had already agreed to pass this bill. So I I think we might be looking at it happening, but maybe with amendments to certain areas. But yeah, it's the capitalist sort of neoliberal
Yeah.
sort of playbook, where profit over people. So yeah, that's
All
where we're
right,
heading.
moving on. No bra, no exam. Oh, okay. Sparks backlash at Nigerian university. Today, CNN reported that a viral video from Alabasisi Unabanjo University, forgive me, my Nigerian brothers and sisters for my pronunciation, in Ogun State showed staff physically checking female students for bras before exams. The no bra, no entry policy sparked outrage online. Described as degrading and possibly sexual harassment, the student union defended it as endorsing modest dress. Well, that's just extraordinary in 2025 that someone could go and she'd do that type of.
Yeah,
I mean, I sit here thinking, what? I don't understand how that
yeah.
happened.
No, I don't understand it either. Particularly at a university, it
Most
seems a little bit
Nigerian people I
odd.
know are very forthcoming, very direct, very outspoken, and strong advocates for human rights. This is
Yeah,
a
well, that's probably
university.
why it's caused such a Mm. Yeah, bizarre, right? Yeah. Oh, okay. And moving on, our last sort of news brief. So we've only got 3 years left to keep warming under 1.5 degrees. So today, or the other day now, the BBC reported that leading climate scientists are warning the world has just 3 years to prevent exceeding the crucial 1.5 degree global warming threshold. At current CO2 emission rates, the planet risks breaching this target, intensifying urgency for rapid emission cuts and policy action. So how about we don't go
Yeah.
any further and into the mining and we might be all right. Yeah, so that's our news briefs for today. A little bit delayed just because of our inability to record this podcast the other day, but it's still relevant news. And, they're still news stories that are of importance today. But moving on to our main story, melatonin over the counter and psilocybin for depression. So on the 18th of June, New Zealand Associate Health Minister David Seymour announced that MedSafe would soon allow melatonin to be sold over the counter in New Zealand at New Zealand pharmacies. So no prescription would be needed for adults for up to a 10-day supply, including modified release formulations. At the same time, MedSafe has also approved a single psychiatrist, Professor Cameron Lacey, to prescribe psilocybin or magic mushrooms for the treatment of treatment-resistant depression. So yeah, really interesting move in that space. I think positive because a lot of people I know that for melatonin, for example, that's currently requires a prescription, although there are no minimal doses allowed for those over 55. Oh, sorry, there are no, sorry. Yeah, that's right. Seymour clarified that there's no reason why it shouldn't be available on pharmacy shelves right here at home, which, is apparently echoing public demand. And with psilocybin, while it's still classified as an unapproved medicine, it can now be legally prescribed outside of clinical trials by Professor Lacey under strict reporting conditions. So additional psychiatrists may apply for similar
Mm.
authorization in the future. But yeah, I think, I mean, yeah, I know lots and lots of people who are using melatonin for sleep and who have had to either order it over from the US or from Australia. And so I think they'll be stoked now to know that, you can get it over the counter. And as far as I'm aware, it's a natural product as well.
Yeah, it's freely used here as well, and it's been extraordinarily successful in some people, melatonin. What we've seen is, however, does the opposite with some people, particularly in the ADH cohort and some of the ASD
Yeah.
cohort. So can actually flip it and make it, so
Okay.
it's all about trial and error and sort of figuring it out and what goes well and what doesn't. And I think what I recall is in the 70s, the LSD was already being trialed and worked on to help with psychotic behaviors and now with the depression. So it's been around a long, long time. But there was a huge, and I think it was on the Australian television or 60 Minutes or somewhere like that, massive studies done here in Australia. And it is controlled and it is
Yeah.
supervised. But,
Microdosing.
there's
Yeah.
quite a lengthy assessment process to go through to get access. So I think
Yeah.
until
Yeah.
it's all very well and true to say we've created and developed something that does this, but the important thing, excuse me, is what is the long-term effects? And that's the worry that I have with Ritalin in children. It concerns me introducing Ritalin to a child's brain, from very early ages. There is no evidence and research 20, 30, 40 years because we haven't got it. So what is that drug doing to little people?
Yeah. It's interesting because I've heard otherwise from a psychiatrist that, there is evidence and it's been widely studied, but I'm not sure on children. I know it's been on adults, but yeah, it would be interesting, or definitely is important to
And,
find out more. And
what else
yeah, because
can
it is
be
a
done
stimulant,
to
right?
support these little people that are just incredibly overactive and, then behaviors come into play that are not acceptable and the ongoing struggle to regulate, there has to be other avenues to support these little people as well as their family, because it absolutely destroys relationships and family units. And it's, it's a really awful thing if it's not well supported to get other, sort of, and I know a range of things that people can, they do. They try acupuncture, they'll do swimming, anything to try and just regulate and help the person have some sort of functioning life day to day. But a lot of that
Yeah.
stuff takes time, takes money, and mum and dad generally have to work, or it's a independent parent, which is my constructive approach for the old term solo parent. So, there's a lot of factors involved, and we still need to prioritize children, and we're still not valuing children and families and all the challenges that come with it, in my view.
Yeah. Well, in terms of, I guess, sort of back to melatonin and psilocybin, some of the wider implications and trends, I guess, are sort of accessibility. Obviously, New Zealanders were paying around $30 a month for ordering, like I was saying, from overseas. So they'll be able to lower the
Yeah.
cost sort of there and barriers to getting melatonin. Um, in terms of psilocybin, that's, having that available here is joining a global trend apparently in Australia and Canada. Some states in the US and Switzerland are similarly enabling psychedelic therapy, especially for hard to treat mental health issues. And they're having a lot of success. Um, in terms of funding challenges, currently psilocybin therapy is not publicly funded. Overseas treatment can cost upwards of like 10,000 to 30,000 US dollars, which makes it really hard for people who are struggling with mental health challenges. And in terms of melatonin, it'll still remain prescription only for children and adolescents, with psilocybin therapy requiring rigorous patient screening, therapeutic support, and long reporting chains to ensure safe usage. Yeah, I guess it's a shift in mindset, maybe, in terms of, being open to different treatments. In particular, what's been seen as a traditional recreational drug, like the magic mushrooms, changing that, by guided by science to remove the stigma around that. And yeah, I guess it's important because it helps, makes access a lot more accessible to people who need it, both for melatonin and for mental health. So yeah, I think it's
They have a
interesting
position
and
in the right
exciting that we will.
way when it's, when it is clinically controlled and supervised.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Cool. Well, moving on, we've got a couple of good news stories to end us off. One about a beaver and one about an old traditional recipe. Do you want to read the
Yeah,
one
no,
about the
I
beaver?
found this really interesting because I've actually heard of this in movies and things.
Are you talking about the beaver or the
So,
recipe? About the beaver or the recipe?
well,
Because
the
there's two.
Saxon one.
Oh,
Yep.
okay, you do that one and I'll do the beaver one.
So, a 1,000-year-old Anglo-Saxon remedy may offer a powerful weapon against antibiotic-resistant superbugs like MRSA, according to researchers at the University of Nottingham. The team recreated a 9th century eye salve found in Bald's Leech book using garlic, onion or leek, wine, and bile from a cow's stomach. After 9 days of preparation under controlled conditions, they tested the mixture against the MRSA bacteria in lab cultures and were blown away by the results. The remedy killed up to 90% of the resistant bacteria. The researchers were surprised that the potent effect came not from one ingredient but the combination itself, hinting that Anglo-Saxon healers may have practiced a form of early scientific method through careful observation and experimentation. Dr. Christina Lee, a medieval studies expert who translated the recipe, and microbiologist Dr. Freya Harrison will present the findings at the Society for General Microbiology's annual conference in Birmingham. The discovery could open up new pathways in the fight against antimicrobial resistance. Well, there goes the price of leeks and onions and garlic through the roof.
Yeah.
It's
But it's
fascinating.
interesting,
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah.
Because I think Yeah, like you were saying, so long these kinda old wives,
Yeah.
traditions or whatever, or, that were seen as just woo-woo are actually, based, and it's like with rongoa,
Yeah.
Māori healing
Yeah.
methodology. A lot of the properties and the plants and the, things that Māori use traditionally to heal, do
Mm.
heal as well. And also just, yeah, it's probably deeper than just the actual physical, but like the wairua of it as well, and that whole holistic
Yeah.
way of treating health. I think, yeah, it's interesting how we're going back now to more traditional methods and then combining it with modern
I mean,
science.
as a young
It's cool.
teenager, and when we were living as a whānau with Auntie Queenie, and, having a really sore puku around, period time, she would go out and the style of gardening is, I can't remember the name of it, and then come in and be rubbing comfrey leaves, mashing it all up into like a semi sort of a paste. And then she'd put it in between two big comfrey leaves, put it in a pantyhose, and put it on our pukus, and we have to sleep with it all night. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
it's just
And it
something that was
helped?
quite natural, and that's what she would do for that one. We would have cut
Yeah.
up garlic every morning, a teaspoon, fresh cut up garlic, just put it in your mouth, swallow it with water. She used things like the middle of carrots instead of sugar. So she was such a wise
Yeah.
old, kaumatua. And, I
Yeah.
probably would imagine a lot of her recipes and her healings have been documented somewhere, or maybe they've been destroyed. I
Yeah.
don't know, but she was a wise old soul, that one. And she could tell if someone came to the house and they were hapu, if they were pregnant. She wouldn't say anything,
Yeah.
but when they left, she'd
Yeah.
say, she's pregnant. Yeah, it's just extraordinary what she knew and how she could language, but she also really valued science, westernization of science and evidence and data, but blended it well with that real
Yeah.
collective
Good mix of
Māori traditional cultures and things.
Yeah. That's cool. Yeah, I
Mm.
love learning all about that. It's really interesting, and everything you kinda need sort of out there, but when you can combine it with the modern science too, you get a really good sort of holistic, yeah,
And
way
she was
of,
one of those people that knew every
looking at health.
plant, absolutely every plant.
Yeah, it's
And I think
amazing.
her first contact with marijuana was in Sydney. I've got to be careful here. She was employed by an Australian person, and she didn't know the plant that was growing in a windowsill, and was told by the owner that it was Chilean tomatoes. And she thought they were
Okay.
the silliest thing ever because she never saw any tomatoes. So, you know, some years later, bringing
Yeah,
that
she found it.
conversation back, she then found out what it was and was horrified that she had been
Yeah.
involved in an illegal activity.
Yeah, it's funny. Yeah. Oh, cool. Oh, well, just the last good news story, comes from the Good News Network, reported on a beaver returning to Portugal after 500 years. A camera trap footage has confirmed that the European beaver's reappearance in Portugal near the Spanish border, yeah, has been captured. Once extinct since the 15th century, the beaver's comeback marks a milestone in river restoration, bringing natural dam building that boosts water retention, biodiversity, and wildfire resilience. So, yeah, it's super cool hearing all of
Yeah.
these kōrero, from around the world returning back to, the way nature implied it
I
to be.
must confess that when
So,
I
yeah.
heard you, I thought, Justin Bieber's going where? And when you explain, I'm like, oh, okay, so it's not Justin Bieber, because his mental health has been a bit precarious. I don't think he's
Yeah,
been
he
well.
doesn't seem too well. Yeah. Kapai. Well, that's all we've got for today. Yeah, it's been short and sharp, but yeah, there's lots more news to come over I'm sure, like over the next. I mean, there's always news, but it is a very
Yeah,
interesting time
yeah, it
right now
is.
in the world, and I think the best thing for everyone to do is just, love each other and look
Yep,
after
practice
yourselves, and
kindness.
yeah, be good to you. Yeah, and just, yeah, look after those who you love, and your community.
Yeah.
yeah, looking after each other is important right now. Well, always, but more than ever, really. Yeah, thinking of everybody who is impacted by what's going on in Iran. I know that there's a lot of the Iranian community is obviously very distressed about what's going on. So yeah, our
Yeah.
hearts and thoughts are with
The
them
great
right
John
now.
Lennon song, Imagine, still as powerful today. The
Yeah,
words, philosophy of it, the impact that it can have if we can practice it.
that's right. Yeah, exactly. Well, on that note, yeah, Māori everybody, and we will catch you on the next one. Ka kite.